Assalamualaikum, Vina Vina. Assalamualaikum, Adam.
Breaking our song, Brother Abraham. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man.
Yeah.
I'm waiting a couple of more minutes, and then I'm going to hook up the YouTube. I don't like to start it any more than like 5 minutes before we're supposed to actually begin. It just leaves a lot of dead time
Okay.
there, so I usually
All
do it at 5 minutes of.
right.
So when I do that for about 90 seconds, it kind of takes me away from this screen
Gotcha.
to tie in all the YouTube stuff. So,
So for me to catch it on YouTube, what do I do?
well, I mean, you're talking about as far as tonight's programming, or
No,
just
I'm
any
I'm
time?
on I'm going to invite some people.
Oh, okay. They don't. I mean, they can go to YouTube and they'll have to look for Graceline Community live event, and the only live event we're having tonight is going to be, collective conversation. So they'd be able to find it there. But it's still probably
I'll
best for
probably.
them to just use the Zoom link.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, no, I don't. Okay, I'm going to share the link. I try to share this link with some people,
Okay.
but most of them I don't have
Oh,
their cell phone numbers and stuff.
gotcha.
So just do it after the fact.
But yeah, give me until like 58 after the hour if you want to.
Gonna take it
Yeah.
better, man.
Okay.
How you doing, Sister Bina?
Okay, Adam, even before we get started, we got about a minute. I'm going to go ahead and make you a co-host so you can upload.
Okay. I see it.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Manira. How are you?
So I'm making Sister Manira.
Host. Walaikum assalam. I'm sorry, I was muted. Alhamdulillah, doing well. Pray that
good.
It's
everyone
good.
else is also.
Yes, wonderful to hear your voice.
Thank you so much. Good to be heard. Alhamdulillah. No.
Hello, all. It's Vina.
Hey, Vina, how are
How you
you?
doing, Sister Bina?
I'm very, very good. How are you guys?
Oh,
We are
doing good.
doing well.
I'm
Doing
glad.
well.
I'm glad.
How's Austin treating you?
Austin's nice. Austin's really nice in the springtime.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very nice. I'm
Yeah,
enjoying
it's
it for sure. I'm trying to, still kind of, even a year in, I'm still getting acclimated, but it's a nice city. It really is.
good.
How's
Very
Dallas?
good.
How's Dallas? Is it the same as I left it?
Dallas hasn't changed much since you left.
I see.
Which kind of sad, but it is what it is.
Oh, I'm always making my way back there. There has been many a day when we have sat in total nostalgia and just being like, why did we ever leave? Because we really had a good thing going on there. We were
Hmm.
in a good spot. That Lover's Lane area is so nice.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's bustling. It's a lot of stuff going on.
Hmm.
So it's just the direction, politics, and all
Oh,
that
yeah.
stuff of Dallas is
Oh,
just.
I forgot. You remind me. I
It's
forgot
such
about that.
it's such a lost opportunity.
I don't know. Now that you bring all that up.
I know. It's just you have this opportunity here to do these wonderful, progressive,
Ah,
fantastic things, and they just are stuck in the mud.
wow. But you're already off to a good start. You're looking on the positive side that I almost missed that. And there you are. You're already there.
All right, so it is four after, and Adam, I'm going to ask you to do double duty tonight and open us up with the dua, if you're there.
I am. I thought I just
Okay,
remember I'm on mute. I was on mute.
okay, all right.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Ameen.
Mm.
Welcome everyone. So tonight we're going to view what I think are some very empowering videos, and we're going to talk about what we hear and see and all that good
To
stuff.
the sons and daughters.
And what I would like, obviously, I think most everybody on here knows how to use Zoom and raise your hand if you have a question, or need clarification on something. Let's do that. And I don't mind, Adam, tell me if you have any issues with this. I don't mind if you raise your hand during a part of the video. You don't have to wait until the video is done. But if you have a question about something, or you need clarification, or you just want to make a point, it's okay with me that you raise your hand and interject whatever it is that you would like to say. So without further ado, Adam, unless you or Imam Talib have something that you want to add, let's get started.
Right, let's start it. This is well, it'll be self-explanatory. I'm hoping you can see the video right now. I'm gonna start it and you should be able to hear it.
Of the motherland, I do not write to you tonight from behind golden walls or air-conditioned offices. I write to you as your brother, as one of you, a soldier who has walked through the fire, a man who has seen the game behind the curtain, a son of Africa who has bled in the sand and still found the strength to rise. This letter is not official. It is not stamped with the mark of the state. It is written in urgency, in truth, and in love. It is secret not because it must be hidden, but because too few are ready to hear it. But you must hear it before it is too late. I write to awaken you, because what you do not know is being used against you, because what you do not question is enslaving you, because if you do not rise now, you may have no ground left to stand on tomorrow. Africa is not poor. Africa is not weak. Africa is not broken. It is being broken deliberately, methodically, and with our own hands. Yes, I said it with our own hands. We have let ourselves be sedated by imported dreams. We have mistaken convenience for freedom. We have confused foreign applause with success. And now the very soul of our continent is being auctioned to the youth of Africa, those in Lagos traffic, in the Nairobi slums, in the fields of Bamako, in the universities of Accra, in the nightclubs of Joburg, in the refugee camps of Tripoli, in the mining pits of Katanga, in the cafes of Kigali, and under the neon lights of Paris and Rome. I say this WAKU pit, or be erased. Number one, the theft of your future. My brothers and sisters all, my sons and daughters in the spirit of Africa, let us begin with the truth that should pierce the conscience of every young African who still dares to dream. Your future is being stolen piece by piece, deal by deal, lie by lie. Not by chance, not by accident, not by natural disaster, but by men in suits and uniforms, by policies dressed as progress, by deals signed in silence, by the kind of leadership that confuses servitude for strategy. And yes, by your own silence and surrender. You were told that independence was given to your fathers. But I ask you, if we are free, then why do our currencies still bow before the euro? Why do our resources feed foreign stock markets while our people feed on hope and prayer? Why do the brightest minds in Accra and Addis Ababa build roads in Dubai, launch tech startups in Berlin, and create art for galleries in New York, while back home the lights flicker, the taps run dry, and the schools are crumbling? You were promised opportunity, but what you got was illusion. You were promised democracy, but you inherited democracies that protect the rich, prosecute the truth tellers, and sell elections like merchandise. You were promised globalization, but it came wrapped in poverty, dependency, and cultural erasure. You were told you would be the leaders of tomorrow, but that tomorrow never came. It is always tomorrow, and they are hoping you will grow too tired to keep asking when. My dear African youth, I must speak to you plainly. You are being groomed for obedience, not leadership. You are being shaped to serve, not to shape. You are being distracted by the noise of social media, while your destiny is being sold in silence. The oil beneath your soil has paid for the comfort of men who will never know your name. The lithium under your hills has powered smartphones in Tokyo and Teslas in California, but your schools still teach under trees and your hospitals still run without electricity. How long will we call this misfortune instead of what it truly is, a system? A system designed to keep you focused on football matches and fashion trends while your economy is auctioned off to foreign powers. A system that makes you chase visas and celebrity lifestyles while your ancestral lands are bought by billionaires. A system that whispers Africa will rise but never tells you who is lifting it and for whose benefit. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When a 5-year-old African man sells his vote for a bag of rice, when a 3-year-old woman trades her future for time and influences approval, when a 20-year-old student stops questioning the lies in his textbook, what future are we really fighting for? Because the theft of your future doesn't always come with guns and helicopters. Sometimes it comes with hashtags and scholarships. Sometimes it comes with silence, and silence, my dear ones, is complicity. You were born with genius in your bones and fire in your chest, but they are hoping you will waste it on TikTok trends and tribal fights. They are betting you will spend more time defending politicians than defending your people. They are watching and they are laughing because they think Africa will always sleep. But I am writing to you now to say they are wrong. You are not the future, you are the present. You are not weak, you are wounded, so you are not lost, you are lied to. And if you rise with clarity, with courage, with unity, you will become the generation that ends this long night. But first you must admit the truth. Your future is not secure, it is not guaranteed, and if you do not...
I see Sister Vina has her hand up almost. Sister Vina. Vina, you want to make a comment?
Okay, yes. So the thing is that I've been following the progression of the meetings in Russia. Is this a clip from the meeting with Putin in Russia? If so, I do not believe that this is the correct translation.
Now that I don't know.
Because, you know, I speak a little bit of French and I can understand it. And this is not what he was saying during the meeting. And I was looking because the background looks like he's in Russia, the meeting, it's footage of the meeting that took place last week when he was in Russia. And I was searching, looking to find, there's several news channels that I started following since all of this has, you know, taken place in Burkina Faso. And I was looking to see if there is a video footage with the correct translation that I could drop in the chat. But I think I only have the French versions. I mean, this is great, what he's saying, but okay, no. If I can find the correct translation, I will drop it in the chat.
That'd be fine.
But this one right here, I believe, is AI generated, and it's someone else has overdubbed what he was saying because this is incorrect. It's great content, and I'm sure that's why they created it in order to get likes. But he did what he actually did say was also, you know, it was equally impressive. But this one is not it. This one isn't it.
Vino, we were planning on also showing a second video as well.
Okay.
If you have a chance, if you can locate the video that you are referencing, that can be kind of verified that it's actually him speaking. And even if it, you know, I guess, you know, it has the words down there so we can read it in English. I would love to play that one tonight as well.
Okay.
To give us some balance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that would be great if you can do that.
Okay. I'll try and find it.
Okay. All right, Adam, I think we're okay to go back.
Okay. Continue on.
Not guarded with your voice, your mind, and your hands it will be taken. It is already been taken. You must stop waiting for someone to come save you. No one is coming. You are the one. Number two, the war you don't see. My dear sons and daughters of Africa, some wars are fought with guns and tanks. You hear them, you see the smoke, the damage is visible, the pain immediate. But there is another kind of war. A war you don't see. A war that doesn't use bullets but contracts. That doesn't bomb cities but bankrupts countries. That doesn't send troops, it sends consultants. It is the war you are living through right now. And this war, my beloved youth, is more dangerous than the ones we fought with rifles in the bush. Because this one wears a smile, it speaks your language, it comes with foreign aid and free seminars, it offers scholarships and development partnerships. But behind the briefcases and boardroom handshakes is an enemy just as brutal as the colonial soldier with a whip. Let me be even clearer. This war is for your mind, your soul, and your silence. They will not invade your land, they will invade your thinking. They will not shoot your leaders, they will turn them into polished agents wearing presidential sashes. They will not burn your villages. They will whet your silence with social media fame, with imported theology, with a system of education that teaches you how to serve, not how to think. Look at how they fight this war. They give loans with one hand and take back resources with the other. They build schools but write your history for you, edited, diluted, weaponized. They bring the NGOs and preach about human rights while funding puppet governments that kill protesters in your streets. This is psychological warfare. It is economic sabotage baptized in diplomacy. It is why the minerals under your feet are extracted by foreigners while your schools have no chalk. It is why your government signs multi-decade mining deals that rob your unborn children, and no one is ever jailed. It is why the youth are distracted by identity battles, while their leaders kneel for foreign validation. This war doesn't just aim to exploit you. It aims to erase your memory of who you are, erase your anger at what was stolen, erase your urgency to stand up before it is too late. And I must tell you, many of your so-called leaders are collaborators in this war. They have traded your sovereignty for status, your peoples paying for private jets, your national wealth for foreign praise. They wear traditional clothes during independence celebrations but sign away your independence behind closed doors. They sing Pan-African songs at summits but speak in the accents of their masters. They are trained in nation building by the very nations that build empires on our backs. And the media, they are not just telling lies. They are manufacturing forgetfulness. They want you to forget Patrice Lumumba, forget Thomas Sankara, forget Amilcar Cabral, forget the fire that once lived in our bones. They want you to remember celebrity gossip, not the blood-soaked treaties that still govern your borders. They want you to argue over who speaks better English rather than who is selling your country to the highest bidder. But the truth is still here. And I am writing this because you must wake up before it is too late. You must realize that every time you shrug and say that's just how Africa is, you are surrendering. Every time you ignore an election stolen in broad daylight, you are surrendering. Every time you scroll past corruption and say, it's not my business, you are feeding the enemy. Because this war thrives on apathy. It wins when you choose comfort over confrontation. It wins when you think only of survival, never of sovereignty. It wins when you believe that this is the best Africa can be. But I am here to tell you they are afraid. Not of your weapons, not of your numbers. They are afraid of your awareness. Because once you see the war, you cannot unsee it. Once you name the enemy, you cannot unknow it. And once you decide to fight back, not with violence, but with clarity, unity, and purpose, you become dangerous. The war you don't see is real, but so is your power. Do not waste it. Do not wait for permission. You were born in the fire. You were raised on resistance. And if you rise now, eyes open, hearts firm, this war can be won. Number 3, Africa is not poor. It is being looted. My beloved sons and daughters, let us destroy a lie today. Africa is not poor. Let the world hear it. Let the continent hear it. Let the youth whisper it to each other in the classrooms, in the markets, in the fields, and across every digital corner of our world. Africa is not poor. It is being looted. We were never poor. Before they came with their ships and flags, we had kingdoms, we had systems, we had mathematics and medicine, libraries and architecture, culture and dignity. We were rich in minerals. Yes, but richer still in wisdom, in order, in family, in spirit. And yet today they hand us statistics like death certificates. Africa is underdeveloped. Africa is dependent on aid. Africa is unstable. No, the truth is far simpler, far more sinister. Africa is being drained daily, violently, quietly. Our wealth is flowing out like blood from an open wound. While the world looks at us and says, why are you bleeding? It is no coincidence that the richest continent in resources houses the poorest people in the world. That is not fate, that is theft. Our gold builds banks in Europe, but we cannot afford to pave roads. Our oil fuels foreign cities while our people cook with firewood. Our diamonds dazzle fingers in distant lands, but we can't afford textbooks for our children. Our cobalt powers their electric cars while our miners die without safety gear. Our land grows food for export while our children go to bed hungry. They do not give us aid. They return to us a fraction of what they steal and they want applause for it. And that is why they fear you awakening. Because if the youth of Africa ever said no more, if we ever united our voices, our strategies, our visions, the looting would stop, and the empire built on our backs would begin to tremble. So do not ask, how can I help the poor continent? Ask who is stealing from us and how do we stop them? Do not aspire to flee to their lands. Aspire to build a continent so strong, so just, and so sovereign that no African must ever flee again. Africa does not need charity. Africa needs justice. And that justice must begin with you, the youth, refusing to be complicit, refusing to be silent, refusing to inherit chains wrapped in modern packaging. Stand at the speak, study the systems, question everything. Organize yourselves, hold your leaders accountable. Because Africa is not poor, it is being looted. And you were not born to be robbed. You were born to restore it. Number 4, the psychological occupation. My dear young Africans, we have spoken of stolen resources and invisible wars, of manipulated economies and bleeding lands. But there is a war far more dangerous than what bullets can bring, a colonization more subtle than any flag planted in the ta, de soil. It is the colonization of the African mind, the psychological occupation, the erasure of self-worth. You may think you are free because the soldiers have left and the colonizers have gone home. But when your enemy is behind a school system that teaches you to hate your skin, mistrust your brother, to glorify your oppressor and aspire only to escape your homeland, then the colonizer never truly left. He just moved into your mind. They rewrote your history. They painted your kings as savages and your sages as witch doctors. They told you civilization started in Athens, not in Timbuktu. They told you the pyramids were built by aliens, not by your ancestors. They turned your story into their trophy and fed you lies until you believed them. They renamed your children. They mocked your languages and called them dialects. They ridiculed your attire, your dances, your music until you were ashamed of yourself. They taught you to bleach your skin, straighten your hair, and call that progress. They sold you dreams of escape. They told you the future lies in Paris, London, New York. Never in Bamako, Kigali, Accra, or Ouagadougou. They planted a seed of inferiority so deep that even when you win, you still feel second class. This is not accidental, this is programming, and a colonized mind will protect the chains around its own neck and call it tradition. You scroll through social media and see success as foreign yachts, luxury brands, English accents, Ivy League diplomas. You do not see your local farmer, teacher, or entrepreneur as a hero. You do not see your own village as worthy of building, because you've been taught to dream in someone else's language. Young African, they give you mirrors that reflect back shame, not pride. But I tell you today, there is nothing wrong with being African. There's something wrong with being taught to be ashamed of it. They've taught you that corruption is African, that war is African, that incompetence is African. But they do not teach you that it was European powers that drew artificial borders across your continent, ignited tribal wars, assassinated your best leaders and armed dictators in exchange for control. No, they will not teach you that part. Because if you knew the full truth, if you understood the full weight of what they did and what they are still doing, you would rise up. You would reclaim your mind. You would unlearn their lies. You would start building anew. You see, the final battlefield is not land. It is identity. And that is where the war is raging the most, in your subconscious, in your values, in your dreams. This is why they bombard your media with violence, chaos, and hopelessness. So you will believe that is all Africa is. This is why African excellence is never celebrated in their textbooks or news cycles. So you will believe you are cursed to always be behind. But you are not behind. You are being held back by a mental cage. And here is the most painful truth. A cage you do not see is a cage you will never try to escape. So my beloved youth, I ask you, what are you consuming? Who is telling you who you are? What images shape your perception of self and your continent? And when will you begin the inner revolution? Because until the African mind is free, no amount of foreign aid, new infrastructure, or changed governments will ever set you free. Freedom must begin in the mirror. We must restore our pride. We must rewrite our story. We must build an education system that teaches truth, not colonial echoes. We must celebrate our languages, our art, our indigenous knowledge. We must raise children who do not dream of fleeing, but dream of staying and transforming. The youth are the mirrors through which the soul of a continent reflects. So I ask you, what reflection are you showing the world? Is it a reflection of borrowed culture, borrowed goals, borrowed voice? Or is it a reflection of ancient wisdom reborn in modern strength? Decolonize your mind, or others will weaponize it against you. Number 5, what must be done now? My dear sons and daughters of this ancient, powerful continent, you now understand the war. You've seen the stolen wealth. You've felt the manipulation. You've looked in the mirror and seen the scars of a colonized mind. But knowledge alone is not liberation. Awareness without action is surrender in disguise. So let me speak now not just to your pain, but to your potential. Let me speak not just of what has been stolen, but of what must now be rebuilt. This is the hour of the great reversal, and I speak these words as a brother, not a ruler. As a man who bleeds the same African dust, who weeps the same tears, and who believes in the unstoppable power that lies dormant in you. Won't reclaim your education. Our education systems are still colonial in spirit. We teach our children to memorize the glories of other empires, Rome, Britain, France, and call it world history. But we do not teach them about the universities of Sankor, the Zulu resistance, the brilliance of Queen Nzinga, or the strategy of Sundia Tankareta. This must end. We must Africanize our curriculum, not to isolate ourselves, but to ground our youth in truth, to teach them they are heirs, not beggars, that their ancestors were architects, astronomers, warriors, and poets, not the caricatures they've been shown. To start locally, build community libraries, host storytelling nights with your elders, record the oral histories before they vanish, bring back to villages the first classroom. 2, organize economically. Stop waiting for permission. Start small, buy from each other. Promote African-made goods. Fund businesses that employ your brothers and sisters. If 1 million youth each contributed $1 to a Pan-African cooperative, that is $1 million to build your own tech incubator, your own clothing brand, your own agricultural revolution. Use your phone not just to scroll, but to sell, connect, educate, and organize. The same internet used to spread confusion can be used to build empires. Don't just apply for jobs, create them. Don't just consume products, manufacture them. We must graduate from survival to sovereignty. 3, unite across borders. The artificial lines drawn by colonial rulers mean nothing. You were not born Burkinab, Nigerian, or Kenyan. You were born African, your roots braided in the same soil, your future bound by the same sun. We must stop fighting each other over names the colonizer gave us. We must stop echoing the tribalism they fed us like poison. You must know that a youth in Ghana is your brother, that a woman in Somalia is your sister, that an injustice in Sudan is an injustice in Senegal. Let no flag come before your humanity. Pan-Africanism is not a slogan, it is a survival strategy. Use technology to break the borders. Build networks across countries. Mobilize for a shared vision. Stand for each other. Rise together. 4, hold your leaders accountable. Do not romanticize revolutionaries. Test them, question them. Even me, do not mistake resistance to the West for love of the people. True leadership is humble, transparent, compassionate. It listens, it serves, it sacrifices. If your leader builds palaces while your schools collapse, that is not a liberator, that is a looter with a different passport. Demand better, vote wisely, refuse to be used. Resist both foreign puppets and domestic predators. You are not too young to change your country. You are too important to wait any longer. Fight, heal spiritually and emotionally. The trauma of slavery, the betrayal of colonialism, the disappointment of post-independence, corruption, these have left us deeply wounded. But we must heal, not through denial, not through bitterness, but through truth-telling, through community, through art, through faith. Let us weep where we must, but let us rise after. A healed generation cannot be manipulated. A united generation cannot be broken. A fearless generation cannot be erased. My beloved African youth, what must be done now is clear. You must wake up. You must link Artemis. You must start where you are with what you have. Do not wait for foreign saviors. Do not wait for miracles. Become the answer you were praying for. And as your elder, your brother, your fellow dreamer for this continent, I will walk beside you. I will protect your voices. I will fight for your right to rise. But the future is no longer in the hands of presidents or parliaments alone. It is in your hands now. What will you do with it? The final warning to my sons, my daughters, my reason for sleepless nights, and my fire for each new dawn. I now speak to you not only with the love of a father and the duty of a soldier, but with the weight of time pressing upon my soul. This final part of my message is not a prophecy. It is not even a threat. It is simply the truth. A truth written in the blood of history, carved into the silence of forgotten graves, and whispered to the screams of a continent still gasping for breath. Let me now tell you plainly, if you do not rise now, you may not rise at all. Because, dear child of Africa, there is a clock ticking, not one that hangs on your wall, but one that tolls for your freedom, your language, your soil, your very identity. One you are being rewritten. Every minute you delay, someone else writes your story. They label your resistance as terrorism. They call your cries for justice radicalism. They erase your heroes from textbooks. They replace your name with numbers. And they program you to forget that you were once royalty. They are not waiting to conquer you again with chains. They are conquering your mind with distraction, with false glory, with illusions of inclusion, with technologies designed not to connect you but to consume you. If you do not rewrite your own narrative, you will wake up one day as a stranger in your own land, speaking foreign thoughts in your native tongue, applauding your own erasure while calling it progress. This is not fiction, this is not fear-mongering. This is the final chapter they are writing, and they are almost done. 2, the systems are closing in. Global systems, economic, military, digital, are being designed without you in the room. You will soon find yourself in a world where your data is owned by outsiders, your economy dictated by foreigners, your health monitored by systems that never heard your story, your resources traded without your consent. Do not let the smiling faces fool you. Beneath their diplomacy is control. Beneath their development projects are pipelines that steal. Beneath their loans are chains with digital locks. If you think independence was achieved in 1960, you have been lied to. Independence delayed is dependency in disguise. And Africa is still being coded into irrelevance unless you hack the system from within. 3, your silence will be interpreted as surrender. There are moments in history when silence becomes complicity. We are in that moment now. If you do not speak up, they will assume you are content. If you do not organize, they will assume you are incapable. If you do not resist, they will believe you are broken, and they will plan accordingly, with conferences, agreements, deals signed over your heads and against your future. The systems are already being programmed to replace you, to reduce you to labor, to extract value, to use and discard. You will not even be mourned, because your erasure will have been branded as modernization. 4, you must choose sleep or sovereignty. This is the final warning. There are only 2 futures before you. One where you are forever dependent, where your food, your medicines, your water, your passwords, your thoughts come up from systems you did not build and cannot control. You will own nothing, and they will call it liberation. The other is painful at first. It demands sacrifice. But in that future, you build your own table. You write your own history. You protect your own soil. You bury fear and raise dignity. That path is not easy, but it is the only one where your grandchildren will speak your name with pride, not pity. So I ask you, with the urgency of a man who has seen behind the curtain, what will you choose? Another decade of sleep, or 1 year sacrifice that changes the next 100? Another round of slogans, or the silent work of building block by block until your villages stand tall? Another trending hashtag, or the quiet resistance of reading, organizing, unlearning, and awakening? The world will not wait for you. The wolves will not wait for your armor to be ready. The systems will not pause while you decide who you are. Africa is not just at a crossroads, it is at a cliff. 1 step forward with clarity and we fly. 1 more step asleep and we fall into permanent exile from ourselves. This is the final warning, but it is also the final invitation to reclaim, to rebuild, to rise. You were never meant to be erased. You were meant to engrave your names into the mountains, to echo your wisdom through time, to light the path for the world with your fire. So rise, children of Sankara. Rise, warriors of truth. Rise, future builders of the most glorious Africa the world has ever seen. Rise now. My beloved children of Africa, before I lay down my pen and close this letter sealed by conviction, allow me to speak once more, not as your president, but as your watchman on the wall, your elder in the wilderness, your voice echoing through time like a drumbeat of truth. I speak now from the soul of our ancestors. I speak now from the hopes buried in unmarked graves. I speak now from the sun-scorched soil that still remembers your names, even if you have forgotten them. To every youth reading these words with burning eyes, to every child born into silence yet destined to roar, to every mother nursing the revolution in her womb, and to every father breaking his back so the next generation might stand. May this benediction ignite the warrior in your blood. I bless your eyes that they may open and never close again, to see truth beyond propaganda, to see light in the shadow of deception, to recognize your enemy not by skin but by strategy. I bless your ears that they may hear the cries of history. to hear the unspoken pain of stolen generations, to recognize the hidden call to leadership inside every insult. I bless your hands that they may no longer beg, but build, defend, create, and cradle the future of a free Africa. I bless your tongue that it may speak not just of your struggle, but of your victory, your unity, your destiny. I bless your heart that it may burn not with hatred, but with holy fire, the kind of fire that purifies systems and forges empires anew. And above all, too, I bless your soul with remembrance, that you may remember who you were before they told you who to be, what your land was before they drew borders, what your spirit carried before it was colonized by shame, what your purpose is not to survive but to transform. You are not lost, you are rising to, you are not broken to, you are rebirthing to. The time of waiting is over. The season of mourning has passed. The hour of restoration is here. Let the rain of wisdom fall upon your deserts. Let the bones of forgotten heroes shake beneath your feet. Let your minds no longer be colonized by comfort. Stand tall, my African youth, with courage in your chest and your ancestors at your back. The drums are calling. The future is watching. Heaven is waiting. Rise now and write a new covenant with destiny. For if Africa is to rise on, it shall not be by the old, nor by the foreign poets. It shall rise because you remembered who you were. May the spirit of Sankara guard your dreams. May the winds of Nubia guide your steps. May the fire of Patrice Lumumba awaken your blood. May the tears of your mothers water the seeds of your liberation. And may God Almighty, who watches over the oppressed, walk beside you as you reclaim what was never truly lost.
As we reflect the very heart of Christ, who never asked his disciples to become Roman, to be redeemed. Let the church become a place where
Hold on a
memories
second.
are safe. Let the Vatican be known not only for what it holds, but for what it returns. And let us remind the world that to erase a culture is to offend the Creator himself, for he who created all people, created all their expressions. President Traore,
Where is that
your
coming from?
challenge is not to a man, but to a system. And in the name of the church I now lead, say this: we must not only listen, we must repent, we must act on.
All right. I got that. Finally found out where it was coming from. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Walaikum salam.
So
So-
I see where Mina has, she's created, she sent a link
Mm-hmm.
and it's like 10 minutes. Do we want to play that?
I would love to.
All right. Hold on a second.
No, you need ask. We need to. She sent 2 links, and
Oh, okay.
I don't know which one. Lena, which one would you prefer that we play?
I think the second one is,
Second one.
I mean, they're both the same because they're, they're, as far as translations go, they're word for word.
Mr.
But-
President,
You can, and actually you can skip to if you want to, because they've got Putin's introduction
Right.
on each one, and you can skip to where he talks. Now, I know
This it.
for
This it
sure,
right here.
No, he speaks more towards the end.
right? And it's I'll just give you a little bit of all the videos that are the correct translation that are posted online. They start with him. He tries to do like he tries to say something in Russian when he first begins to speak. And then at the end, he talks about some of the defense systems that they're working with. And I believe that the Russian TV has cut off all of the correct translations right when he starts to talk about some of the defense systems that Russia and Burkina have discussed or are about to start sharing. So that's how that for this particular meeting, that's a good way to know that it's authentic The previous version, I believe, from what I can see, just with an informal analysis of what's online, I think that's an AI generated because you can kind of see patterns in the phrases used and in the grammar and the speech, and you can kind of tell if you get a chance to listen to several of these videos. And there are a lot of AI generated videos uh, of
Oh, thank you.
of Traore speaking. So that's the little introduction.
So even though, and I think I remember early on in the process, there was an image of another African speaking in English,
Mhm.
right? And it might have been his voice and
Right.
mouth movement.
Yeah, you can hear. That's
But
another way to tell.
yeah, but we're looking more in the content. He didn't say any of those things he said in the video in the meeting with Putin,
No,
and that's the more important thing to me. He didn't say it in the meeting with Putin.
no, he didn't say it at all. There hasn't been, I've been watching pretty closely. He didn't say any of those things. He has sort of been very open-armed with the Pan-African residents in Burkina,
Yeah,
and there was a meeting about 3 months ago where some Pan-Africanists from the U.S. traveled to Burkina, and he, gave them an audience. And, I say gave them an audience, but he's took some time to meet with them, and he's always been, and he did shift, I would say about a month ago. He shifted his rhetoric from speaking mostly about terrorism and imperialism. He does still speak about those things, but he's added about a month ago things like revolution, and including all of Africa and all of the diaspora in some of the speeches that he's used to address Burkina Faso. So it it is somewhat right, but he's never given a speech like that.
again, I understand that, but it probably is AI generated. What really brought it home? Have anybody seen that baby on YouTube that's supposed to be Allen Iverson?
Yeah,
Have
yeah,
you seen
I
it?
probably, I
I have
probably,
not. I have not seen that. I've missed that.
Let me see if
Sorry
I
to
can
say.
find that right quick.
yeah, I've seen
You seen
several.
that?
I've seen a baby,
Tell me
Dave,
what practice.
Dave Chappelle. They have him as a baby, and
Let me
it,
let me ask while I know we're going to get to something here in a second, but in these videos, the ones that Vina loaded into the chat, is there anything of substance in
Oh
these
yeah,
videos?
his speech that he gave, what at the between speaking to Putin, it was great. It's great. It is refreshing because he's never had a person, there's never been a person that he really is the definition of speaking truth to power. If you consider Putin, even with all the sanctions and all of the things that have been spoken against what he's doing in the Ukraine and overall, he basically sat down with them and said, I was really amazed and impressed with the parade that went by. You guys got to see some footage of the parades that went by. It was last week or 2 weeks ago. Basically, the setting, the context is that Putin invited about 29 countries, the leaders from 29 countries, to commemorate World War II veterans. And if you guys have been following, one of the arguments that Putin puts forth quite a bit lately to justify his stance is that the US is trying to rewrite history and saying that that Russia was never really played a role in World War II. And he says that it was Russia that really helped for the world to gain independence from Nazism. So he had this huge giant parade. North Korea was there, several countries, 29 of them, each marched their armies across. It was this huge fanfare. He had a dinner with these 29 countries, and he met individually with each one of them. And this is the footage of the meeting between him and Putin.
So I would love to see his part of it where he spoke of that particular meeting with Putin. And my fear,
first of all, at the beginning of
my fear is like the old 1960s folk song. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
I see. Yeah. Well,
if you substitute Russia for France, and you're dependent on Russia because you're no longer dependent on France, I don't know how much has changed, but I would like to hear his words.
Well, the main thing is that he asks right away, straight off, and this is what everyone's talking about, is that he says, we don't need your aid anymore. What we need is the transfer of knowledge. Because it's like he's starting to realize, and I'll let you guys see.
Keep going back.
Back this way?
Yeah, to the left. I'm sorry. Keep right about, go back to right along in there where you are now. Right. Start it right in there. Right there. Just start it right there. I think you'll pick up most of it.
So I'm gonna do it here, Evan, okay?
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, he's more towards the end. You'll see when it starts.
Have also held consultations with the countries of the Confederation, the Sahel countries, as demonstrated by the event.
Hold on a second.
In April of this year in Moscow. Thank you for your attention.
Let me stop here. Okay, now. Hold on.
Comrade President.
I pronounce it well, and it is an honor to be here at the celebration of the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Great War. So I wanted to congratulate you and thank you for this invitation, which is a symbol for me. And during my time here, I must admit that I have learned many lessons. The session I attended before dinner the night before, the cultural session, made me realize that history and culture are the foundation for building a strong and resilient army. Together, we were able to see all the sacrifices that the Soviet people made so that we can live in a free world today. And so we want to thank for this invitation because these moments have also allowed us to reflect on our own situation and to think about new perspectives. And with that, I believe that the obstacles we face today should not stop us. Obstacles are a good thing, something we must overcome. Despite all the sanctions imposed by France for the past 45 years, we have managed to escape them, thanks to God and thanks to you. Russia has managed to develop an internal mechanism that puts it at the forefront of the international stage, and we are learning, we are taking careful note of these lessons that we have learned here, and also at the same time at the parade. I want to say that I was amazed to see the sequence of the vehicles that paraded before us, especially from the legendary T-34 tanks. That won during the Great War up to today's modern tanks. How much then has the Russian army modernized? How much has technology then contributed to strengthening this army? And in this context, we hope that the cooperation we have can be strengthened exponentially. I already thank you for everything that has been done for us, especially the scholarships that are granted to Burkina, and that will increase. And this morning, I visited the University of Chemistry, and I was saying that the area we will focus on, Monanamam, after defense and security, is education. This is the area that interests us the most, especially the sciences. Russia needs to help us train our youth, especially in the field of science, so that we can develop machinery in our own country, whether it's machinery for the military or for industry, because only in this way will we be able to develop within Africa. The war that is being imposed on us today, we believe, is just another manifestation of Nazism. Because the terrorism we are facing today is not really terrorism, it is imperialism. It is our land that interests those who are fighting against us. So, ending this war, building a strong army, and launching the development of our homeland. This is the essence of our struggle, and we are counting on you, above all, to train our personnel. Because cooperation, as is often said, in Africa, we tend to make a lot of requests. We know that you are engaged in a special military operation. We understand all the challenges involved and what the future holds, which is certain for the whole world. We can understand that. So we may not be here to ask for a lot of things, to request aid or anything like that, but the help you can give us is above all this transfer of knowledge that we seek. And so we hope to have more scholarships and to explore ways in which we ourselves can provide scholarships to our students to study here. And thirdly, how can the universities here be replicated in Burkina Faso, especially the one I visited? And there are also many other universities in the field of sciences. How can we replicate them in Burkina Faso with all the necessary laboratories required to provide practical training for our youth so that we can truly be at the heart of our own development? So this is the main request we currently have in the context we are experiencing in order to be able to transform everything we have locally for who possess many qualities within themselves, and that Burkina Faso becomes a hub where many young Africans will come and also learn science. Because here in Russia, you have eminent scientists, and there have been many scholars whose works we continue to study. I think it is a haven where we can draw on science to develop ourselves. The other thing, especially in the military field, is that we have many projects with the Ministry of Defense.
This is not the time for cowards who die times without number. Because if you are today, your children and children will pay the price of our cowardice.
So
you must speak up.
Right. I mean, that,
all right. So, Edward, you're trying to make a point.
Well, my point, and the thing that I always fear, is the shift. And a lot of noise is made around the shift from Big Daddy's house in the West to Big Daddy's house in the East.
Mm-hmm.
We moved out of Big Daddy's house, we're moving into Big Daddy's house for everything. Mm-hmm. You're going to teach us, you're going to give us the equipment, you're going to indoctrinate us in your methodology for doing things. And I mean, obviously, if you're a society, a country that has been manipulated and lied to and resources taken from you, yeah, you're starting from behind.
Right.
So you do have to get help somewhere.
Yep.
You really and truly do. And how do you go about doing that without selling your soul? Becomes the question. I personally think that there is enough brain power in Africa, the African diaspora, not even including us who were born and raised in the United States, but the Africans who've gone abroad and become educated, who work in our institutions in London and Paris and Washington, D.C. and New York and Seattle and San Francisco and so on and so forth. Then if you throw us in, of American raised and educated people who are always dreaming of Africa set up an exchange program to bring our engineers and bring our teachers and all that stuff, who I'm thinking a lot of them would willingly go on a 2 to 5 year contract to work to re-energize that country and many more countries. Arrange housing for them, decent
so
pay.
You don't think that this so-called intelligentsia, you're trying to get him to bring over to Africa?
Mm-hmm.
You don't think the Caucasian would come with him?
Well,
you don't think the Caucasian is living in their minds the way he's described?
Of course.
Well,
hold on.
Are they independent enough? No, they're not independent enough to do anything like that.
Are they more independent minded, and would there be a greater possibility that they would understand the mission better than a Russian?
I don't know if they have the capability. I see him being very careful and strategic in the types of things he's getting right now.
I agree.
I see him doing that, and he's trying to avoid doing that.
I agree with that.
I'm not going to criticize his efforts because, then it ain't his fault that he's trying to come. You're suggesting he come from America to get people who are not saying anything about what they're doing in his country. You understand?
That's a great point.
They're not trying to change. They're not trying to change it right here in America.
No, our media, the media that we bow down to and that we take in what they're saying, and that's most of us. There aren't a whole lot of us that listen to Africa Daily on a daily basis. I do, and other people do, but that's not most of us. Somehow, the message has to be shared, and I can indict people for not wanting to, not seeking information. We can indict a whole bunch of people for not seeking information, not seeking knowledge in certain areas. And I'll say that I know a whole bunch of people, and some of them are in my family, that have the capability of going there and helping, that don't even know this place exists at all. And there's a whole bunch of African Americans. I would bet 60 to 70% of African Americans in this country have never heard the name of that country. So yeah, you have a long way to go before you're able to do what I would like to see happen.
But we can start doing what you want to see happening, Edward.
Yes, that's what we have to do.
That has nothing to do with today.
I agree.
So let the man do what he's trying to do today.
Let me ask you, Adam. Let me ask you a question.
He's not the only one that's doing something.
True, but let me interject a question, Imam Talib, before you. I think I know where you're going. If he continues, and the people in Mali, and there's a couple of other countries that I could mention, if they continue down the path that they're going, because they think that is their best outlet, their quickest outlet, and they're not willing to also put in the work to reach out to people who may not have an ulterior motive and leave them in the lurch, then I fear that 15, 20 years from now, we're back at this same point, talking about the same thing, about them running somebody out of their country or disengaging with somebody and looking for help somewhere else.
All right, I agree. Well, whose fault was that?
I put it on me.
Exactly. So it might take us 10, 15 years to get this new idea built up to where somebody would trust putting confidence in them. But we should have been
Yeah.
doing it a long time ago.
Yes, we should.
You understand?
Yes.
We had to register some urgency in what you're saying.
Yes.
Register some urgency right now.
Right.
And try to be in a position 5-10 years where we can be a valuable option.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Right. So he is not the only one that is doing things on the continent. And I think part of our duty and responsibility is to always be in a position to expose what it is that we learn to others in an effort to also wake them up. It's been well known for decades now, and quite frankly, I didn't learn it until maybe I was an adult in my 30s. So that was what, like 40 years ago, that looking at a world map, Africa has always been drawn out of proportion. So it starts there with a perception that it's a small country, but in fact, you could fit several continents into Africa and still have room left over. A lot of what we're experiencing now is media driven. And if you want to know, I haven't seen the results, the economic results of what Niger did maybe 2 years ago, when they kicked France out of their uranium mines, where prior to that occurring, France was paying Niger 80 cents a kilo for uranium, and then selling it on the world market for $200 a kilo. So Niger, from what I understand, in the last 2 years since that has occurred, Niger has gone from $1 billion in revenue that they accepted from France to $300 billion now that they've taken over. Now, what's happening to that money, whether those numbers are correct or not, I haven't done a deep enough dive. But when you're getting countries like Kenya and Somalia and Burkina Faso and South Africa and Kenya coming together to form a new Africa Union, that's huge. Where we fit into all of that, I mean, I would start just by supporting it and spreading the word of what is going on in these different African countries where they're making an effort to come together, to set up their own currency, to remove visa requirements so that you can now travel from one country to the other. So, I mean, in fact, I thought I sent that link to us sometime yesterday so that you could hear for yourself what is being done. And this brother Ibrahim Traore, he's the chairman of this new African Union.
So I have
yeah,
a question. And Vina, help me out on this because your knowledge base may be even greater than mine. There exists an African Union.
Yes.
That has been in existence for some time. And in that African Union, I want to say that there are probably close to 50 countries on the African continent that are part of the African Union. And I want to say that there are only, and again, my math may be off a little bit here. I want to say there are only 54 countries on the African continent. So a majority of countries that are on the African continent are already part of an African Union. So is this new thing working in opposition to the African Union, or are they proposing new ideas to the existing African Union? Do we have Africa against Africa, or do we truly have Africans working together?
Yeah, I think the reason, okay, so the union that these three African states have formed, it's Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. They have formed this union more based on security. It's a security alliance. It's called the Alliance of the Sahel States. Sahel meaning sub-Saharan. And they formed based, I think they based it on an exit from a different organization called ECOWAS. And these are,
Correct.
These are sort of keywords.
That was a security agreement that they had that also I think included Nigeria, may have included Senegal, and a couple of other countries.
Right,
Yeah.
but the Alliance of the Sahel States, which if they're called AES because of the French translation. The AES, they exited also from the African Union. And it's generally understood that they did those two things because nothing was happening with these two organizations between ECOWAS and the African Union. There was still corruption, there was still exploitation, there was still outright theft of the mineral resources and other resources of these countries. And these three countries wanted to be able to forge a different path. And all three of them had recent coups. Niger's, I think, was 2 years ago, all around right around the same time. Burkina Faso is the only one that had a double coup that happened within the past 5 years. And so that's sort of the background on that. And Ghana recently, it seemed like ECOWAS sent the Ghanaian, the newly elected Ghanaian president to each of these three countries of the AES to try to see if they would come back. But they have made according to them, irrevocable split. But again, it's only a security alliance. It's only in terms of security. And these are along the lines of the rest of ECOWAS, you have treaties, you have agreements, you have contracts, security contracts with those who have been exploiting us. And that is why we cannot continue to work with you. If you are going to continue to engage those who are outright saying that Africa can never be on par with the rest of the world, that we can't continue to work with you. And so, yeah, there's been a couple of attempts to bring them back to ECOWAS, but they have said outright no on that.
Okay, so I really, in his particular case, in Burkina Faso's case, I like the spirit in which he is moving. I actually like the ideas that are floating around in his head. My issue, and I'm very boring on this subject, I hate Russia. Absolutely hate Russia. And all three of those countries, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, are inclining toward Russia. And the Russians, to me, are cockroaches. All they do is get in and mess stuff up. Everywhere they go, they mess stuff up. And like the discussion we had earlier, no, there's not a lot that we, the African American diaspora, can do to help these countries right now. We're not together enough to halfway help ourselves in the United States. But to see them going down the road of being sucked in by the Russians, it hurts my heart. It hurts my heart.
It's true. It is very much, you can see the communist playbook playing out. And you can see it across the 3 different countries. While Traore was in Russia, he also met up with the Venezuelan President Maduro. He was, when you see the footage, Maduro was extremely excited to see him because I don't know if you guys know that Traore had just days before he flew to Russia, he had been incognito because there was a 19th assassination attempt on his life. We don't know, no one, there hasn't been an official record of what actually took place, whether it was, the true media tends to lead toward that he was poisoned or there was an attempt to poison him. So Maduro, when he met him, was saying that he was very, very happy to see him. They were laughing, joking. He's also had strong ties with Cuba. So you can see a certain playbook playing out along, the Che Guevara communist socialism type lines. But like I said, he has made kind of a, not maybe a 180 turn, but some degrees in that direction towards thinking more in terms of sovereignty, more in terms of revolution, more in terms of the diaspora. I would say probably from his perspective, it's hard to see where the lines really lie. And it's easy to become entangled, when your opportunities are limited. It seems like he has a very, very great United Nations influence, and that he's been trained in some ways through the United Nations. And then that would lend credence to the explanation of why he's sort of teamed up with Russia, is because this has been going on in the background for a while. But I don't get the impression that he is not unwilling to think independently. And to speak to your points about, he just today, he had met with a Pan-African group. Late last week, he created an institute, kind of like a think tank for Pan-Africanism. And, he's starting to, it seems like the things that you're talking about, Ed, word that he's just now starting to do them. He's just now starting to get a big picture view. As soon as he returned from Russia, one of the cities in Burkina was attacked, and they supposedly, allegedly killed 200 soldiers. And of course, by now, it's very well known across Africa that these terrorist, quote unquote, terrorist attempts are coming from the Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, and those terrorists are backed by France and through several different chains, the West. And so he does have that part down. I think lately he's been opening his mind up to a bigger picture that might include some of the things that you mentioned, Edward. But I think it was Adam that made the point that this may take a while because the lines are crisscrossed very, very tightly, and they've been that way for so many years. But yes, he definitely has nationalized the gold mines in Burkina. He's loosening up the visa requirements, just as Imam Talib had said. He's lowering some of the citizenship requirements for people from everywhere. But it's like as soon as he did that, the US put Burkina on the do not travel list.
Right.
So there's all kinds of, there's all kinds of things going on back and forth. But yes, everyone, I agree with everyone who has made the point that it's going to come down to the level of consciousness and the level of awareness that he's able to achieve. And I think from following it, even before it, blew up as it has over the last few months, a couple of years, I think the greatest amount of supports he needs right now is in helping to understand that big picture analysis of the situation that says, who's my enemy and who's my friend?
So in clarifying that for him, obviously Western politicians, and I'll just start with current occupants in Washington, D.C., they're not those people. We're perfectly fine having diplomatic relations, trade relations, going to improve their infrastructure and rebuild the Syrian country with a terrorist who had a $10 million warrant on his head. We're fine with that. But we're not fine with working with African countries because that travel ban included a lot of African countries. So it has to come from people in leadership positions and people like ourselves in the West to let them know that there is, it may be some time coming, but there is a lifeline with us. And not just Burkina Faso. Every country, sub-Saharan country in Africa should have that outlook that they can reach across the Atlantic Ocean and that we're here. And that, yeah, it may take some time to fully develop the relationship. But if the last, 60, 40, last 65 years, since most of the African countries started gaining independence from Europe, if it hasn't taught them any lessons about not being dependent on their past colonizers, but to actually reach out to their cousins, however distant, then I don't know when they're going to start learning. And the same goes for us. I don't know any of those people over there. I don't know their customs or their habits, but I know that they are relations, no matter how many times removed. And yeah, I should have done a better job of building relationships with them, but it's not too late.
Right. I first started the interest in Burkina Faso. I happened to, when I was living in Chicago, bump into a lady from Burkina Faso that was lost and she needed help with directions. And, it was just a chance encounter. And ever since then, I've kept my eye on that. And that was like, maybe 20 years ago. I kept my eye on the country because she was so sweet. She was in a way that reminded me of like, my grandmothers and my grandmother's people, very, very honest and sincere, very gentle, So um, I think that we have enough of exchange, even without crisis, for us to begin to start to make inquiries and to begin to start to make connections. Even if it's based on just, oh, the way she laughs reminds me of my auntie, So I think that it's long past where we should be able to start to make connections. As far as what they think of us, I think they've been reaching out, quite a bit for a long time. I know that he was very pleased with the reactions in New York because on April 30th, there was a huge outcry across the African continent. People, Burkina in Russia and the Black Pan-Africanists in Jamaica and New York, they all rallied for Traore, and that's why he's even a point of discussion like this on Zoom calls. And that April 30th rally was because of that attempt on his life, that 19th attempt. And because the Burkina people are so much in support of him, whenever there's an attempt on his life, the Burkina people, there are some of them that will go and sleep on the Capitol to protect him because it is so well known that this is a Western attempt. Like once you get they understand that it's terrorists, but they also understand that it is where do they get the weapons and who is backing this and what's the root of the problem. And, they remember Gaddafi and how he, his story, how he fell. And they're trying to make sure that that is not a repeat again.
Right.
And so this is the African youth, because as you know, most of Africa is the youth. A lot
Correct.
of the adults are not around anymore. That's a whole other discussion. But this is the African youth that are very well aware of the history and the root causes of some of these things, and they're very, very determined and very, very vocal about the fact that they don't want a repeat of history.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Gaddafi and Libya, and that's to me that opens a question about Burkina Faso and the dominant tribes, if there are any, that are in that country, and if there is any issues between the tribes because of his rise to power, because of the coups. How is that working? Because that's really what brought Gaddafi down. the tribalism in Libya and his tribe's murders of a lot of other tribal leaders from other tribes opened the door to everything that happened to Gaddafi.
It's that same thing that's happening, but with the difference is awareness again, because all of these attempts on his life have come from within. But the difference, you know, and when I say within, it's Burkina Bay people that are, you know, once they do the investigation and they arrest people, and it's Burkina Bay people, or it's Ivorian Coast people, or you know, it's Benin people. But the difference is that it's the awareness, and this is, I think, another reason why Traore has so much appeal, is because as soon as it happens, he usually comes and makes a public announcement. Guys, look, you know, this is our own people, but who's paying them? You need to be aware. You need to understand. They're going to put out messages. They're going to put out misinformation. They're trying to divide and conquer. This is what they do. This is how they have done it before. You cannot allow it to happen again. And he's said this repeatedly over and over and over again. And this is why they're so vigilant about that particular aspect of the strategy that is usually used. But so far, that's been the only tactic, and his, you know, the only card that he's had been able to play is communication, and you know, being very quick and upfront about the fact that these attempts on his life are a result of poverty, really, because it happens like this. You know, there's somebody starving, somebody's family is not eating. Here comes someone with French backing or Algerian backing, or, you know, whomever, imperialist backing, with the money, with the guns. All you have to do is X, Y, and Z, and you're home free. So if you follow along, I do get the sense that it's being managed, but I think his, as I say, this turn towards a more of a push towards sovereignty and independence in terms of like revolution, I think is going to open the door to more strategies against this internal strife, because he's very well aware of it, and his supporters are very well aware of it too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, at least he's going into it with his eyes open. I mean, you know, I think the real question will become if we don't like what he's doing, how are we going to contribute to the process? I mean,
let me say something, because I've been kind of listening in. I got this other conference call. I forgot it was this Monday. It's with the 150 effort I got, and I've been trying to go back and forth with that. But two things I try to consider. One, these Europeans have so much invested in Africa.
right.
Their economy is based on Africa. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
That when you talk about messing with their money, you got their attention.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So in one sense, everybody's right. You got the Russians, you got the Chinese that's trying to mess with the European economy. And so they've taken out people all over based on that. If you're talking about messing with their economy. Now, it's their fault because they were the ones, just like the brother said in the AI doctor video, which I still love because they were dropping too many gems. They have to, that's why Colonel Gaddafi ain't around right now. You understand? Because he was trying to create their own system, like the Europeans were doing, trying to create the African dollars. A lot of the chaos in Africa right now is because a lot of the Francophone countries have been used by the French. And they got it. I think I told you about this deal last week or Monday. They got a deal, not Monday, but Sunday. They got a deal where they require 80% of the generated reserves to be deposited in French banks. 80% of, let's say, a Francophone country had to be deposited in French banks. They couldn't even keep the money in their own banks. And then if they had a shortfall, they needed some reserves to draw down some reserves. They can only withdraw 10% of their reserves per year. If they needed more than 10%, they had to borrow it from the French banks. Right? So when you're talking about going on your own monetary standard, now you're messing with the French economy.
Right.
Greatly dependent upon Africa. So you got the Chinese that's picking off their economy. You got the Russians now they're trying to pick up the economy. And it ends up being a fight, a battle. And that's why one of the things that President Ibrahim talked about, he said, you got to be willing to die. You got to be willing to deal with like the terrorists over there. They say they're Al-Qaeda terrorists, right? Supposedly. You got to have the terrorists attacking the country. You understand? Who you think send those people over there to attack? Yeah. It's the European countries as underwriting it, and maybe even the CIA. I don't know. Maybe even the CIA. And so you see, as more popular that he gets and movements he make, they're gonna move. Now, the thing is, who will line up with the brother and protect? Because they come. Because you messing with their money.
Well, that's one of the things that Bina had talked about earlier was that alliance between Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, the security alliance.
Yeah.
That is part of the protection. I don't know if it's enough. That if any Western power decided to send up a battalion force against them, with air support, I don't know if they'd be able to defend themselves. I don't know. I don't have any idea how close we are to anything like that. I mean, France is in political disarray. They have a hard time forming a government to make any kind of decisions right now. So I don't suspect, other than the stuff that we're talking about, which has France written all over it, all the assassination attempts on him, that is as French as it gets. They're not together enough as a country to come against him with full force.
Well, they're hoping they don't have to because the eyes of the world. It's not like when it was in the Congo. You understand?
Well,
Going on.
our connection, our ability to connect. Let's just isolate him. Our ability in the West to actually connect with them in a positive way would be another buffer. That would actually help him whether we are doing anything tangible at the moment other than having an open dialogue with him, exchange of ideas, plans for the future, those type things. That would be another buffer. That's more eyes and ears and communication flowing back and forth than France would ever want to see.
Right. That's
How do we do that? How do we enact that is a good question.
It's already happening. It's already happening. It was suppressed in the media. So I don't think that many people are aware of how it was like a wildfire that swept over the African continent. Almost every country had a Traore, it wasn't really a protest. They were just coming out in support. And the main slogan was, "Don't touch him. Don't lay a finger on him." And again, it's based on the history. It's based on a lot of people were holding up signs of Gaddafi. A lot of people were holding up signs of all of these Sankara, all of these groups that have been assassinated by divisive means, puppeteers working in the background. So, but it was huge. It was huge. And it seemed like different from a lot of the massive things that pop off lately, where they are very, very orchestrated. It seemed extremely organic and authentic and just based on, the raw virality of people communicating and being very passionate about it. Because that's another thing is that this is a case in point. The AI video is very convincing and it has a lot of great buzzwords and a lot of persuasive dialogue that lines up with what most people, want to hear. And there's a lot of that on the internet right now. And so you have to be it's almost like you have to commit to following things and see how things change and progress over time to be able to get like any sort of discernment as to who is who and what is what. And I think that is another avenue of support. It's not just support, it needs to be discerning support because of this digital era that we're living in. Because, you can, from where we're sitting, you can start in with a great analysis and a great critique that's way far off base just because you just didn't have the right information. And I think it's just a matter of if there's anything that you see that right now seems like something small over in Africa, commit to it, commit to following it and follow it over time. And you'll start to see the cracks in this digital addenda and agenda that we're living in. A lot of the misinformation and flood of information comes from Chinese artificial intelligence. And some of it is just that it's just overmuch, it's too much, and it's in the wrong voice. And you end up having to wade through all of that to get to the actual authentic versions of things and the authentic truths of things. And I don't know if they're trying to help or what the actual agenda is with that, but that's something to watch, definitely. But I would say that if we are I would agree that if we are going to have a place, it needs to be a place of support and watching, but also discerning support, definitely. Because the digital age presents some things that we just haven't had to deal with before at all.
Well, one thing I'll say about this and other videos that I've viewed, my takeaway from it, and this is from my own personal experience, I never knew or met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I was never a member of the Nation of Islam. But in reality, at 10 years of age, I started going on, I would tell you maybe at least twice a week, I would be in downtown Washington, D.C. And it never failed that whenever I was out downtown or anywhere over in Northeast D.C. where I was raised, there were always members of the Nation of Islam that were selling Muhammad Speaks. And I would always get one. Every week, I'd get a new issue. And it was, I give that newspaper credit, but I give it to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for inspiring me to want to be an entrepreneur. So, and all I did was every paper that he printed, that the Nation of Islam printed, when you cracked the middle of that paper, it said, "Do for self and kind." And I took that literally. And because I took it literally, I've been an entrepreneur for over 55 years. I'm 73 years old now. He influenced me. My hope is that what we hear on these videos, fake or not, that it's going to inspire people, that a seed is going to be planted. And we have no idea what it's going to lead to or who it's going to inspire to change their way. Because the more, and I can see it happening even with me, where now I'm, as Vina was saying, I'm looking into this more. And I'm finding other little like nuggets, little jewels that I want to now perhaps do a deeper dive. I just need to take all of this and be able to prioritize these things, because our lives are like going through a buffet line with a small plate.
Yeah.
And every time you get to
Right.
that next station, you try to pile stuff on, and you look up and you going back to the table to sit down and eat, and you don't know what it is you have. So I mean that's where I need to be careful and not fall too far down in the rabbit hole, and try to find a place for this new information to be able to sift through it and try to make some sense out of it, and then see where is it that I could possibly fit in to help this, to help this process. Because I do believe that, it's time in whatever methodology is going to take place to kind of throw these imperialists and colonizers, not only out of Africa, but find a place for us here in America where we can fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And stop, trumping behind this white man thinking that he's somehow gonna save us. Anyway,
Well, I was going to say that one of the things that I do is, in addition to the online stuff, is I take it offline as well. And I try to, if I see someone who is speaking French or see someone who's African, I say, have you heard about what's going on with the Sahelian states? What are your thoughts? What do you think?
right.
Just so that I can get a person-to-person viewpoint, because I think, it is enough to where all of Africa is talking about this. So any person that you talk to that is African will have a opinion on it, and it'll likely be something that's closer to the ground than what you would find online, just simply because there's so much misinformation.
Right.
The AI can be manipulated in so many ways. So
Right.
that's another way of connecting. I've been able to find out more that way than spending time on, doing searching video after video on YouTube.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
it's another good avenue for sure.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's old school. I mean, that's how you found. That's how we found out here in Washington, D.C. during the Black Power movement what was going on in other cities.
And it's so strange. It's like, that's the way, that's natural. Here I am talking about it like, like it's
the word of mouth and the beat of the drum and yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's been another barrier is, because it's a French speaking country, not only that, but when I hear it, it's not like he speaks a different kind of French, but his French is different. Because I think their original language is called Moonri, or I can't think of the name of it, but I think it's like French. It's not French from English, it's French from their native language.
Right.
So it's like two spaces over of translation that has to happen, but it's not so far removed. You can just like you say, inspiration is palpable across languages.
Right.
So,
yep. All right, folks. Well, this has been quite enlightening. We'll have to continue this as well. I personally don't think this is the last time we're going to have this type of conversation, and that I suspect that every conversation that we have from this point on, whatever the subject matter may be, we may end up coming back to some of this in some shape, form, or fashion. Just trying to, particularly as Graceline, just trying to measure where we possibly see ourselves in this particular global fight. So I'm appreciative of it, no matter how it came to me. And now I'm getting hungry and I'm ready to eat. So.
I will send some very, very trustworthy websites that I followed for a while that I think would, if you're interested, would be good to follow to give you like the real blowdown version of what is actually going on, what's actually happening, but translated well. And these should give you some insights, and I'll send those to Edward.
Okay. All right.
And he can share those with the rest of the group.
And I guess now I'm gonna go to my my cable television and see what I can find on news that's coming out of Africa.
Right. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
Well, one of the things that you can do, I don't know if you're on any of the streaming services that have podcasts. There are some really excellent podcasts out of Africa that on a daily basis, they're talking to African leaders from different countries, but these countries they're very connected in that they're trying to do trade with each other, or they're having conflicts with each other, or they're trying to solve something.
right.
And you can just go, there are dozens of them, and sift through them and find moderators that are consistently bringing important decision makers in and asking them tough questions. There are a bunch of them. Whether you're doing the Apple podcast or Spotify or wherever you're finding them, there's a lot of African voices out there.
Okay. All right. So are you all going to continue, or are we going to?
Adam, did you have anything else that you wanted to add this evening? And he may be back on his other his other meeting with the schools. So, Sister Manera, we did not hear much from you. I hope that that we talked about something tonight that you were enlightened in some way. Did you have anything that you wanted to add or any questions before we sign off? I'll take that as a no. Adam, did you have anything? You came back on for like 5 seconons. Now he's gone again. So Imam Talib, there he is. Adam,
I'm sorry about it. I'm on.
Yeah, you juggling. Yeah, we getting ready to close out. We trying to find out if you had.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. Imam Talib, if you will close us out.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbana hasnatan afil akilati hasnatan akina adabina. Oh Allah, give us good in this world, good in the after, and defend us from the torment of the fire. All right, folks. Good night, and thank you very much. This was